Hello, welcome to the podcast this episode. Uh, Today in our panel, we have a couple of immigrants trying to steal our jobs here in Canada.
No, not just steal your jobs. Basically, steal your jobs for lesser money.
Yeah.
Yo, the bloody immigrants. They're
Yep.
stealing all our jobs, and they refuse to help the Stormcloaks.
But yeah, so my friend Mustapha
Skyrim,
and my
man.
friend John Paul are on today. And I'm going to be doing a special epilogue episode with my friend Gautam, who's currently, let's just say he's abroad. So yeah, we're gonna share our life stories here as a thing, as a podcast in our podcast episode as an immigrant. Before we do that, as you guys can see, near my throne of toilet paper, I also have a brand new gaming seat. Your boy Nick is has become a baller.
Mm-hmm.
It has so if you're into gaming and computing and so on, my friend Christian, my boy Christian, is running a promotion. You type in the code word Nick, N-I-K, in the promo section, you're gonna get a $25 discount on his website for any purchase you make. So yeah, description will be the description will have that information for you guys. So. First off, we're going to start off with our friend John Paul here.
Mhm.
John Paul's going to introduce himself, and then Mustapha.
Yeah, my name's John Paul.
Yeah.
Half Filipino.
Can you also tell us your background as well?
Yeah, half Filipino, half white.
Yeah, so you're basically Far East movement.
Far East. What does that mean?
Oh, you don't know like a G6? They're a bunch of like Asian rappers.
Oh, sick. I went to high school with a few SoundCloud rappers.
Really?
One of them was named Germ the Worms. It was the
Germ
dumbest
the
shit
Worms.
ever. But
Germ the World. It's very fascinating. Name is fascinating, but it's very odd.
his name is Jeremy, and like his nickname was Germs, so I don't know.
But yeah, our friend here, Mustapha, can you tell us about yourself and your
Is
background?
it slow for anyone else? Or is that
I'm
just me?
I myself am of Pakistani origin, born in Karachi, Pakistan. I moved to Canada, Toronto, at like back in 2008, and then again in 2012 because I had to go back. So I became a permanent resident around 2012, and then 3 or 4 years later, I officially got my citizenship. So I am a Canadian citizen. So you can call me a Pakistani Canadian.
Yeah, so my name is Coconut Raj. Or
Your
Nick.
name is not Coconut Raj.
Hey, my accent's the whitest accent you can find. And I have brown skin from a tan. All right? So my parents came here. And as a southern guy from Alabama would say, my parents stole people's jobs, essentially. But we moved here. My parents studied in India, came here, and I basically grew up here since I was a little kid. But yeah, with that, just wanted to ask you guys we'll start with John Paul, and then we'll go to Mustapha for all the questions.
Oh.
What was your
sick.
experience with your country that your family immigrated from?
I actually am not really an immigrant. I was born in Canada.
Oh, your
my
parents
mom was
were.
born. Yeah, my mom was born in the Philippines, and my dad was from Scotland. I've never really been to the Philippines, but I kind of learned how to speak Tagalog during high school just because of how many Filipino guys there were. Like, it was like this wave of, like this swarm of guys from the Philippines who were there.
Yeah. Oh, you went to Earl Hague, right?
No, I went to Brebeuf.
Oh, holy brave! I got a friend named Alex Vlasov who went there.
Vlasov? You know Vlasov?
Dude,
Yo,
yeah.
that dude!
Alex
we were.
Plastoff.
Yo, blast off! I was in a play with that guy, Spam-A-Lot.
Dude, I'll tell you the funniest story that my friends and I did to him after the podcast is recording, but you'll shit your pants with laughter after you hear it.
Man, is that dude still bald? Like, I saw a picture of him on Instagram of him bald, and he looked like Walter White.
Considering the kind of shit he does, he's probably as bald. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, consider you. I know Bray Buff or that region has a lot of Filipino guys there. But yeah, what about you, Mustapha?
What's the question?
So basically, what's your experience with your country that you immigrated from?
The best way I can describe it is that I have lived in two different worlds. That is, so the world of Pakistan and the world of Canada. That is, and basically, even in Canada, within Canada, there's the Pakistani community and then the Canadian community that I interact with back and forth. So, like, in a nutshell, basically, I'm living two different lives and I have two different personalities based on those lives. It's something fascinating, basically. And that's the case with, like, most people who migrated to another country, is that they have two different lives. Like, when I start speaking my language, my local language, Urdu, my personality switches, or the way I speak, the way I talk to a friend, even the way I flirt becomes completely different than how I flirt in English, for example. So
yeah, you go to Pakistan, aap kaisa hai?
Oh, no, it's not even like that. It's more Bollywood-esque, basically. My style of flirting in Urdu becomes very Bollywood-like. So, if anything, it's more like that, the guy...
You guys go to a tree.
Reciting poetry, right? It's kind of like that reciting poetry going around the wall. It's like, hey...
You got a Romeo here.
Very Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan kind,
Oh my God, is it like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham? Like the guy, he's like sitting on top of his Lambo.
Something like that, basically. Except, yeah, especially with like Shah Rukh Khan and like Hrithik Roshan, like driving around and like showing off their biceps and triceps. And the style of interaction overall changes, and it really depends. Like how I'm talking here right now, if I were doing this podcast in Urdu, you would be like, who is this person? This is a completely different person that I'm talking to right now. So that's I think a lot of bilingual, trilingual migrants who are either they're born here or come here, either or. I've seen that they tend to have like two different lives that they're living normally. Yeah. So it's like they're not neither here nor there. They're kind of like somewhere in that middle, that really nice middle. And how far sometimes they go, like I've noticed with certain immigrants from Pakistan, and I've even noticed like Indian as well, like some either completely embrace the Western lifestyle, some like completely still are in the Eastern lifestyle, and then some kind of like take elements of both and like mesh it together. That is. So these are the three different lifestyles that I've noticed. So I hope that answers your question.
Did you just say that we're from different planets? That is racist.
Planets? I said worlds. Did I mention different, dimensions? So it also it goes very like, extraterrestrial at that point. It's like different dimensions. And what's funny is that in Canadian law, right? I studied like paralegal law. So there's a term used called illegal aliens in that law, basically, that there are certain, what to do in case of an outside alien, that is. So one of the old laws, because the immigrant or the outsider or the invader was seen as an alien, that is.
Yeah.
So that's where the term alien comes from. Alien is basically like someone not from here.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of like the funniest story with like Supergirl.
Oh yeah.
That show, TV show, I get
yes.
hemorrhoids in the middle of my head watching that TV show because of how horrible it is. No, like at one point, like they're like two of the main characters are dating at one point, and then they're like, so the father, like the Latino father, comes out and he's like, goes to one of the females and he's like, do you know what they hate more than Mexicans? They're building a wall to keep us out. Do you know what they hate more than Mexicans? Shit. And I'm like, why would you say that on national television?
Wait, what did they say? What did they say?
They said the F word. For
The
people
F-
with LGBTQ, like in the original version.
Yes.
And like there's like a thing with them, like I'll see if I can find that article, but like they tried to flesh out everything.
Mm-hmm.
They had to they initially released it and then they had to like resend it.
Yes.
I might want to fact check this. If I do find it, I'll put the link in the description.
Absolutely.
But like when I first heard that, I was like, who the hell do you think you are?
Kind of
Yeah.
surprised they had that on a Canadian network too.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was on Netflix.
Yeah, like it's funny how like media has changed overall. Like if you notice, sorry, I'm eating too. If you notice the films from this is the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, how a foreigner from Asia was depicted as very violent, that is, or very, very stereotypical, like closing the hands here, or very sexualized, or very like, sometimes very stupid as well. And a lot of these roles were also played by like Caucasian white men who would like, they paint their faces, which is, we fortunately we grew out of that time, but like you see an evolution that there is a slow like embracing of the other, that is. And they have made movies with allegories, that is, such as very recently Disney made something called Zootopia. Zootopia addresses the multicultural society and racism, but through animals, that is. So the animals that are depicted, the different animals like a tiger, the bunny, the fox, they each have stereotypes, but then they're sort of like an allegory for like different people from different backgrounds, different countries, races, ethnicities, even religions too. So, it's kind of like the, a commentary, like a depiction of, diversity itself. And because of the rise in immigration, yes, there's going to be more diversity, and not only just Canada, but like globally speaking.
They kind of show that. They kind of show that in Avatar: The Last Airbender too. I don't know if you guys seen that, where it's like with the Fire Nation, how in the first season, how they're like all evil, but then as the series goes on, and you find out that there are civilians there who are normal.
Yes. And especially that it describes my experience from Pakistan coming to here as well. Like you kind of grow up thinking like certain races or certain ethnicities behave a certain way. Like you kind of expect certain behaviors, right? Like, let's just say I expect like members of the Caucasian race being more promiscuous. For example, I'm just taking an example. I come here, but then I find out that there are also those who are very, not as promiscuous, are very similar to myself. That is, like, for example, like, or there's the expectation that people from Canada and the States would be drinking every weekend, but there's a lot of people who do not drink every weekend. So
because they can't afford
like broke a lot of like, my expectations were challenged in a way.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest things I realized when I went to back in India as well. They would be like, "Oh, you're from America, like, why don't you drink like with us?" And I'm like, "Dude, drink like when we drink here, like it's rarely we get pissed drunk, but like it's like it's like a UFC event or a soccer event or basketball game, and we go there. We don't want to see like the screen in double vision, so we'll have like one beer maximum while we watch the game. That's
Absolutely.
like the culture here, but like it's not like, dude, let's go take shots till we die every weekend.
Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if you're taking shots every weekend, your what do you call it, liver's gonna get destroyed, if anything.
Yeah, but the funniest thing I've actually heard a comparison to is like the worst person to piss off is a brown girl because they're savages. Because it's like, imagine you're out partying with them, and then like her mom calls. It's like, shut the fuck up. Do you want this party to end right now? Shut the fuck up. Don't make a sound.
Yeah.
Oh, mommy, I'm doing prayer right now.
And that was my lifestyle too. And that's not only brown girls, but even some brown guys have to actually face that too. Because we come from like very traditional religious backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to have a little fun, but we grow up in environments that are so restrictive. And so, like, you know, they have expectations that you're studying all the time, you're not engaging in anything. Heck, even for them, going to the gym or playing some sport is equivalent to evil. Like, that's the kind of toxicity that you receive from the elders of that culture. And this is something we need to address. Like, you're also dealing with that, but you're also trying to fit in too. So it kind of like you have to balance both of these things, and it becomes very challenging for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, like my mom still thinks that like boxers are spawns of Satan, but
oh man, I just can't at this point. I just can't. I have no comments.
We had Harry Potter books, but they got thrown out because of witchcraft.
Really?
Yeah. Man, my younger sister, who was the one who owned them, she was pretty pissed off about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as long as you don't get rid of the movies, because, the movies were actually sick. If they got rid of those, that would be too far.
Oh, yeah. But keep in mind, like, even throwing away the books, that's kind of like, it's just a fictional world, right? It's not even real. Like...
Yeah. It's also, too, it kind of goes back to the book burning as well. Like, are you going to get rid of a book just because you disagree with it?
Exactly.
Like, you can't, I mean, that doesn't do anyone any good.
Yeah, I remember there was an incident called, does anybody know about the Salman Rushdie affair? That is of the 1980s. So this Salman Rushdie was a writer. He wrote the book called Satanic Verses, The Satanic Verses. And basically what he does is he makes fun of the founder of Islam, Muhammad, but he depicts him as a very, in an opposite direction, like in a more comical way, basically. That's it's almost borderline demonic at some point as well. So
it is satanic.
Like, it's like, that's why, because it's satanic and then kind of mix in some comedy too. So a lot of people got so pissed they started burning that book in public as a protest. That and not only that, the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini of Iran declared that it is legal for any Muslim on the planet to kill Salman Rushdie. That's how far it went.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
all because of a book.
All because of a book. So your family, like, throwing out the witch book, is actually relatively tame to this. It's very relatively tame. And keep in mind, like, Salman Rushdie just wanted to express his way because he grew up in like a super religious household. It was his way of showing the middle finger to religion as a whole, or specifically Islam. He wanted to show the middle finger. But then there's a lot of people whose sentiments were so hurt that they actually pressured, like, not only pressured like government officials to, like, ban the book, but Salman Rushdie had to have guards with him at all times and had to live in different hotels in different locations. There's even a documentary that'll even send a link to Nick, basically recounting the Salman Rushdie affair.
I had a professor at my college who was pretty anti-religious, and I won't lie, I was kind of disappointed. I was expecting it to be like to be like that movie God's Not Dead, where he's like all evil and like, I am God in this room, not like abandon your faith. But
dude, that movie was like a load of cringe.
Yeah,
man, that movie is the greatest bad movie I've ever watched.
Yeah,
it's on par with Sharknado.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we not talk about Sharknado, please? Can we not mention Sharknado? It is.
Oh, yo, you guys want to know what the best movie I've seen is for being like the worst movie ever? Let's see if I can pull it up.
No, you know what it is? Birdemic. Birdemic is the worst movie on the planet. It beats The Room. The Room is like the bottom, right? But Birdemic takes it further with extremely, extremely shitty acting and extremely horrendous, editing. The editing is so bad. The birds look so bad. It's like, how bad can your editing be?
This movie is absolutely horrible.
No,
that
no,
it's good at
pastor.
Why does this even exist?
So basically this dude is a pastor and goes to China. He discovers that he has superpowers while he's with a hooker. And then he fights crime. And like this is an actual scene from the movie.
You're kidding me.
I am not kidding you.
You're holy. I'm guessing they were purposely making a horrible film.
Yeah.
On purpose.
He fights a bunch of criminal ninjas as a velociraptor, which he found out he had the superpower to do while he was with a hooker, being a pastor.
It was just... This is a shame because the poster is advertising something else, and this scene is what we get. That's a ripoff. That is a ripoff.
Dude, I highly recommend that movie because it'll make you lol so bad.
I don't know if I would want to take a doll, squeeze its head till it pops off while I watch the entire movie, and how many dolls' heads I'll end up breaking.
That was absolutely...
That is just, why do you even exist on this planet? But I think that it still pales in comparison to Birdemic too, because at least I can see that there's some effort put into this. Birdemic was just lazy.
What's Birdemic about?
Birdemic is basically the mockery or the remake of the Alfred Hitchcock movie Birds, right?
Oh, that movie was amazing, and they ruined it?
They ruined it, and not only that, they ruined it with horrible editing. The fact that the birds come around and they're like animated, computer animated things that are just flying like helicopters and they crash like planes.
This is it?
Yup, that's the movie.
These are so fake.
They are, that's the scene in the movie. These look so, and the blood is not real. Like, it just craps all over the concept.
I just want to backhand everyone involved in making that movie, like, for their own good.
Like, it's one of those movies that is so bad, it becomes good. And it kind of like, it's one of the best, worst movies that you can see because how hilariously bad it is.
Dude,
like
two things. One, it's trash when it has half the ratings of Velocipaster.
No, it had half.
Second,
it's horrible. It's worse than Velocipaster. Velocipaster scored 5.2 on IMDb. That scored 5.2. This, how much is the score on this?
2.7, I believe.
Exactly. There's half of that. Almost half.
And 2, this has out of 10.
Out of 10. Dang. Even 5, though, out of 10. That's a bit generous.
It's generous, 5 out of 10. A 6 out of 10 is like a decent movie. But then anything below a 5 is just bad. That's just...
Take it in, Dragon Ball Z. Or Dragon Ball had, what was it, like 10%?
Which Dragon Ball?
Like the live action movie.
Oh, the Dragon Ball Z. That live action was just... I kid you not, like when they selected a Goku, like, okay, you made Goku white, okay, fine. I'll live with that. They didn't get the mythos right. The story wasn't right. The universe did not make sense. Goku is pathetic. He's not even cool. And it just, oh man, that just destroys.
I've never seen Dragon Ball Z or the movie, and I can already tell that the movie's probably bad.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the anime is so much better. The anime is legendary. It's one of the gateway anime to the world of anime for most fans. That is the most well-known anime next to Pokemon is Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Attack on Titan is the best I've seen so far.
As anime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say my favorite are two personal favorites are Death Note and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
I'll take this potato chip and eat it.
And eat it. Take this potato chip and eat it.
I really like Food Wars.
I haven't seen Food Wars yet. I haven't seen Food Wars.
It's really good. And then I love Saitama or One Punch Man.
Oh, One Punch Man is great too. One Punch Man has that workout, that famous workout where he does like the what's the workout? Like, do you recall?
10K, 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 squats. The reason why I know that is at the end of the month I'm going to be posting a video on my results after doing the Saitama challenge. I'm not running the full 10K though.
No.
But yeah.
It's because the epidemic, right? Like,
yeah.
You know.
I don't want to get a fine.
Exactly. And well, it's not even the fine. It's just that it's not very safe out to like expose yourself. That is, I would be more concerned with the safety of the public, right? So for public safety reasons, that, and you know, it's hard to track 10 kilometers if you're not using a treadmill.
Yeah.
So like, and what kind of running will you be doing? Like brisk running or like sprinting or just?
I'll be doing brisk jogs, like 4 or 5 laps around my house. So that adds to like 4K.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Like brisk jogging is not bad at all.
I would not have the patience to run around my house that many times.
Yeah, it does get boring. It does get boring.
I think because with trails, you also get the experience of just like, you know, seeing trees or different places too. So
no.
Yeah, the area I'm at right now is a ravine area, so like I don't want to go into trails and get eaten by a koi wolf or a raccoon.
Or a coyote, yeah, or even a coyote. Though I do carry like an umbrella with me, because I used to carry a bat when I used to would go on a trail. But then it's like I don't want to look like a what do you call it, Michael Myers, without the mask. So, or Negan from Walking Dead. I don't want to look like a young brown Negan. So I'd rather take the umbrella because it's not for humans. It's for coyotes specifically.
Man, I once saw a raccoon eat a squirrel while I was walking down a trail. It was.
I actually saw a coyote break a raccoon's neck and just leave it there too.
Oh.
Like you saw like its neck break?
Yeah.
Oh man. It's like some National Geographic.
I remember, holy shit, I went to Niagara Falls for a school trip once.
Yeah.
And my God, there's this one squirrel on like Clifton Hill, like screeching at all the people. And I'm like, everyone was like, dude, poke it so it gets back into like the river or like the forest or some shit. Because if it farts, it's going to kill everyone here.
Well, yeah, where did we get from like Life of an Immigrant to like squirrels in Niagara Falls? Niagara Falls.
But yeah, so bringing back to the main topic, I also wanted to ask for first of all, like I want the main question will be like, what's your experience in Canada? But I also I was reading something about like the Moana incident. I just wanted to ask what you guys feel about people culturally appropriating your cultures. So yeah, I'll start with John Paul.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on the degree that they're doing it. I'd say, like, okay, let's say you go to a party and a bunch of guys are doing blackface and pretending to speak in an African accent. Yeah, that's not okay. But like, if a white guy is just using like, I don't know what that haircut's called, cornrows or something. I mean, like that's not bad. You know, it's just a haircut.
Yeah. My view is that I think it depends on like how you use that culture, right? Like if you're either doing one of the two, making fun of said culture in a very degrading manner, like saying that you're somehow superior, or you're using that to make money when other cultures were, you know, shoved to the side. So these one or both of these things is where it gets offensive, that is. Otherwise, if it's just wearing, for example, like an Indian traditional dress just because you're at an Indian party, it's like, no, that's not a cultural appropriation. That's just blending in with the culture, right? So, and also that's done with like consent of like, hey, the friend will be helping them wear said dress. So, in that extent, that's completely okay. So the two things, it's a very complex issue too. It's very complex. And also John Paul mentioned blackface. Blackface was a lot of people don't realize how horrendous it is when, in the old days, in the plays, in the theaters, where individuals from the Black community were not allowed to attend. So they had white actors play Black characters, putting blackface on and making fun of that community. So it was kind of like, not only are you isolating a community from enjoying the theater, but you're also making fun of them at the same time. So that's where the history, touches at.
They did a similar thing. I remember writing a paper for it for college. During the Second World War, a lot of the film industry in the U.S., like you look at with Popeye or cartoons, how they portray the Japanese as being like these fucking like orc from Mordor kind of characters. And the reason for that is it's like trying to establish cultural otherness because they're from a different country, and because you're at war with them, so you want to make sure that the people watching it view, okay, this is the enemy, this is the one we're supposed to be fighting against. So with that, I would say it's it's immoral, but there would be a lesser evil because it also like has a purpose behind it. Like with warfare.
I think most people from my region, like in India or any country that has a high poverty rate, it is a serious issue. Don't get me wrong; it is a mistake to show another culture in bad faith. But like when, let's say, India, cultural appropriation is probably not its biggest issue at the moment. Probably like feeding its people under the poverty line is.
No.
Like if they're sitting there giving a shit about some like white lady trying to wear a sari, and not worrying about the people, like the thousands of people dying every day because of the lack of food.
Yeah. Now keep
in
mind,
thousands of people, like children that are homeless. I think that's like a much bigger issue. Like the people of India need to focus on. Mind you, like someone like trying to like Justin Trudeau doing the brown face is pretty offensive. But like,
oh my god, the man was 30 when he did that too.
Now keep in mind, Nick, like feeding your children and like the poverty is a completely different issue, right? Yeah. So equating those two issues is rather unfair. It's like apples and boxes. I'm not even going to say oranges because they're completely different matters.
But like but in terms of an average person in India,
not necessarily.
Like that's what they're going to be like an average person in India is probably going to be thinking, like if some white lady's wearing a sari, like
we're not going to care.
Why do I care? Why do I care?
Yeah, why would I care?
But like he's going to give a shit if Trudeau does it. But he's going to walk out his door and he's going to see some like kid beg for money and he's going to forget what the hell Justin Trudeau did and like start talking to the kid. So that's essentially my point. Like it's a bad thing. It's going to bother some folk in India, but like it's not going to bother them to the point where like it's going to bother them more than seeing that homeless kid.
And keep in mind, like folks in India and Pakistan are not aware of the history of like the brown face or black face as much because they haven't been exposed to that kind of racism that was experienced by the Black community. And at the same time, they were under colonialism.
It's mostly directed towards like African
Americans, yes. So they haven't experienced that that kind of racism. And at the same time, they were under colonialism. And you kind of see the effects of colonialism with India and Pakistan, where they sort of, it's kind of like, it's very difficult to explain because you see some extent of, Pakistanis and Indians trying to be like their Western counterparts as a reflection of the effects of colonialism. And at the same time, colonialism was the reason why the poverty rate was so high to begin with, because it's an after effect of colonialism. And there is, it's a very complex, when you talk about like cultural appropriation and racism, it gets very muddy, a very complex issue too, because it's not very black and white, because every person's perspective is very different. Someone's going to find something offensive, like another person's going to find another thing offensive. Like, for example, the Apu character from Simpsons. You guys remember Apu from
Yeah,
The Simpsons?
Apu. I felt so
the
sad they
Quickie
took
Mart
him out.
guy.
Yeah, like the Quickie Mart guy. Now, a particular, I think, who was the man who made the documentary that Apu was an offensive character? What was his name?
I
Uh,
forgot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah, like some people, I get it why that character would be offensive, but at the same time, it's a stereotype, because The Simpsons' purpose is to mock society, and Apu was a stereotype, and Apu wasn't presented as a usual stereotype, because he did have very redeeming qualities. Like, he was presented as a very charismatic person, as a very likable person. So, and with a high moral standard as well. So he wasn't an offensive stereotype. He just had a very weird accent and dark skin
Yeah,
color.
like I basically
Yeah.
just say like when there's like when I remember I had a guy ask me like if Apu offended me, and I'm like, dude, is owning a convenience store a bad job?
That's not a bad job at all.
It's not a bad job.
Yeah.
Is being like brown a bad thing? And he's like, no. And I'm like, then why the hell should it bother me? You know it's not a bad thing, and I know it's not a bad thing. Why
Yeah.
the hell does it offend me?
Yeah. If
I
you
think the controversy.
Yeah.
I think the controversy comes from the fact that he was voiced by a white actor
Yes.
faking an accent. So
Yeah.
not necessarily that because he owns a store,
Yeah.
I couldn't give
think
less of a
that's
shit because he was an entrepreneur helping a society who paid taxes
Yeah.
and was
But, like
I couldn't give less of a crap. But
Yeah.
knowing like the shit that I say and I also take,
Yeah.
you guys know I rarely get offended. The times I do, it's usually it goes away in 30 seconds. But I rarely get offended by insults. But some people are a bit more sensitive. They could have taken offense, but honestly, I
Now, keep
don't
in mind
really care.
what John Paul actually, going on to his point, is that I think it makes sense what the source of the controversy was. The fact that it was a white person playing an Indian character, voicing that accent, was seen as controversial in itself, and I can see how that can rub a lot of people the wrong way, because Hollywood has had a history of stereotyping characters, but using white actors to stereotype said character. So I can see where it kind of shows that, so what you're trying to say is not only do we not belong, but you're going to make fun of us. So it kind of goes back to the cultural appropriation thing. So, and now times are a bit different. Now times are changing. You're not going to notice more and more diverse actors coming into film. And you're gonna have you'll see some elements of it, because you'll see the sexualization of, let's just say, the Asian woman, for example. The Asian woman is going to be heavily sexualized, and the man from the Asian continent, he's going to be displayed as extremely nerdy, extremely unattractive, or very violent. That is like terrorism, for example. He'll be a terrorist, he'll be a mafia boss, he'll be someone very dangerous, someone you have to take down. So they do contribute to the negative stereotypes that most people hold against persons like myself and yourself and John Paul. They do hold those negative stereotypes.
Yeah, that actually goes back to some Bollywood movie I saw the other day with my family called Watham, and it's basically about a bunch of 5 people whose lives all connect in a hospital that was in a terrorist attack.
Yes.
And basically one of the guys was a Muslim man who's been stereotyped all his life by the police and everything for causing ruckus when he actually didn't. And then while he was trying to escape from the police, he gets shot in the foot and is taken to this hospital where he actually meets the terrorists who are planning to blow it up later, and they gave him a Quran. So this guy basically sees the hospital, and he sees his wife originally was pregnant, and then she got hurt in a accident, a racially intentioned accident, like assault, and lost both her children. And when he saw another pregnant lady, he wanted to like help her out. So he saves everyone in the hospital by like going to terrorists, pulling out the Quran. He's like, dude, show it me where in this thing it tells you to go kill all these people here.
Yeah.
So like the way that the director actually fought the cultural appropriation that existed in the society there.
Yeah, because it's not only Hollywood. We kind of give Hollywood also a hard time too, because it's a lot of other film industries as well. Like not only in the West but in the East too. There is the tendency to stereotype the other. That is because there's the tendency to stereotype. But now we're, like you said, we're kind of embracing that. We're making movies like Zootopia, or that movie you displayed, or even Beastars, the anime, that is addressing the issue of not only diversity, but also the problems that arise with diversity and the complex issues around it, and how what each individual is trying to overcome those differences. Because we're living in a globalized world, so now we're not only interacting with each other a lot more, we're also moving around a lot more.
Yeah, and like it's a really fun topic to discuss about because not a lot of people actually do it, like really discuss it in a positive sense. But like the point that you touched about with other film industries doing it as well, like my God, if you ever seen a white guy in a Bollywood movie, they're too broke to hire an actual American actor to play an American person, so they'll get some like Finnish guy for like a quarter of the price to play a guy from America, and he can't even speak. Like the Finnish guy can't even introduce himself in English, let alone like speak full sentences.
There's one movie called Kal Ho Na Ho. I recommend even every viewer to watch that movie, Kal Ho Na Ho. It's one of those movies, and even a YouTuber called Lindsay Ellis commented on the fact that this is the rare movie that is, that actually is appropriate. It does not break any rules of cultural appropriation. It shows people of their background doing their own thing. It talks about Indian immigrants living in New York, even though the film was filmed in Toronto. Let's be real. It was filmed in Toronto. Like Toronto has become your new Gotham City and New York.
Miss America was also filmed in Toronto. Saw them filming it downtown once.
Yeah. Like I'm guessing it's because cost saving, that is, and Toronto appears very similar to said city.
Yeah, other than as long as they don't have the image of like the CN Tower in the background, totally fine.
Yeah, that would be like, that would just throw you off. Like, yes, Toronto, that's Toronto.
No, like I was watching Suits, and there's like a few episodes where like here or there, I was like, holy shit, that's a TD building. Holy shit, that's CN Tower. Holy shit, that's Elfinland Castle. I'm like, dude, really? I know all these places. I've been to all these places.
No.
Like, and I remember at one episode, they're like, this is Central Park. And I'm like, no, that's Melassen Square. I went to lifeguard training there every single day.
Yeah, what is up with these movies? They wanted to pick New York, but they end up filming in Toronto. What's up with that? And it's both with the Bollywood and Hollywood too. It's like, what's up with that?
Like, John Paul, you know what I'm saying? Do you know that dollar store near Empress Walk right behind Douglas No Aquatic Center?
Dollar store. You mean the one that's like in North York Center?
Yeah. Like there's like a dollar store, Best Buy. There's like the theater and everything behind Empress Walk.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, like so they were sitting across from that, filming, and then this guy's like, "This is Central Park," and I'm like, "You sneaky fucker!"
I read somewhere. Apparently, Incredible Hulk was also filmed in Toronto. Yeah. Except for the final fight scene, they had to edit out the Zanzibars and replace it with something else because it to keep a PG rating.
Right. Yes. They have to, like the rating system, both in the United States and Canada, they have to, there's some weird rules around those. Especially like in terms of like number of swear words, certain things you can't show if you want a particular rating. It's weird.
Yeah. But
I mean,
yeah,
it kind of
well,
makes sense. You're not gonna show a strip club in a movie that kids are gonna see.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're not gonna show anything sexual. That is, they have
hey, mommy,
hinted at
what's a
those things.
hooker?
They have hinted at those things before, like, because they know some adults in the audience are definitely watching. Like, remember Shrek, where like Donkey and Shrek are like, um, you know, they're making fun of Lord Farquaad. So Farquaad actually stands for fuckwad, and that's
Oh,
where
shit.
the connection was. And it was making fun of Michael Eisner because the design was after the CEO of Disney, Michael Eisner. And Donkey and Shrek were like, these men are in short supply, and then there's those who think little of him. So they're actually talking about his genitalia size. So they're making fun of Michael Eisner. He was basically indirectly making fun of not only the Disney Corporation, but also of the CEO, Michael Eisner, through the villain and Shrek making fun of the villain.
Fuckwad. I'd never caught on to that. It feel
Yeah, no,
like a disillusion.
Farquad is, fuckwad. And YouTube algorithm, we're not swearing. We're actually pointing out a trend in a particular movie. So do not try to take us down just because we use the Farquad term. So please, we beg of you, don't do anything to us.
YouTube overlords. You played all
YouTube
33
overlords,
million guts.
please.
We prayed to all 33 million guts.
But yes, so also like
Give me some toilet paper.
yeah, and even the fairy tales, right, were sort of like back an allegory for like what do you call it? Some have proposed that they're an allegory for like immigrants or undesirables that Farquaad is trying to get rid of. So that's how the fairy tale creatures were also sort of signifying that, and they're all dumped into Shrek's swamp. That is,
Oh.
and that's where the conflict of the movie starts. And
Shrek is supposed to be a metaphor for the struggle of the lower class. Think about it. His neighborhood was gentrificated when all the fairy tale creatures went in there.
exactly,
He's constantly stereotyped as like
yeah,
he's green,
he
so
he
his
is,
skin color they hate him
yeah,
because of that.
yeah. Someone like an immigrant, right? An immigrant who's not of very affluent would definitely relate to Shrek because not only do we want to be isolated, but we're also like we're seen as different. We're seen as scary. So Shrek is definitely a very relatable archetype, and even the Beast from Beauty and the Beast. It used to be an allegory for arranged marriage, but then eventually it evolved into interracial relationship status because Belle is that white woman falling in love with a man of another race, that is, and that's the Beast. The Beast is the other man of that race, and you can even switch it around vice versa too, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, I kind of hate Disney fairy tales though because the amount of necrophilia in there is kind of shocking.
Wait, what necrophilia? Which one are you talking about?
Isn't it like Sleeping Beauty or something where like, oh look, there's this corpse in the middle of the forest. Let me make out with her.
Oh, in that the movie is like she's in what you call the sleeping death, right? Like she's technically asleep, but the curse is like she's gonna sleep forever. That's the curse. Like she's still breathing. So it's not exactly necrophilia per se, but it is definitely.
Please tell me does it sound legal to you? There is a girl laying there, supposedly unconscious.
Oh,
the first instinct you have is to make out with her. This is something like that Brock story.
And you know what's funny? The original fairy tale is where the king rapes the woman in her sleep, and she actually gets pregnant because of it. The Sleeping Beauty tale. It gets dark.
I saw this comedian was saying Sleeping Beauty is literally just date rape the fairy tale.
Exactly. It is. It really is. It really is that. And it was taken from a story that did do exactly the same. Except they kind of like flowered it up, magical creatures, oh, it's a curse, and that's where came from. But in reality, Sleeping Beauty is a
LSD is
very
one hell of a
dark
drug.
tale. Yeah.
I mean, no one in the
LSD is one
20
hell of a drug.
no one in the 20th century is gonna watch a movie and root for a guy raping a passed out girl. So,
Exactly. And not only that, like it's how you're presented too, right? Like people are now realizing what's the allegory in these films, and you're especially with the movie. A lot of people haven't seen this movie called The Fox and the Hound. It's an amazing movie, even though it's a kids movie. It's a Disney movie, but the second half gets very dark because it's about a fox, a puppy fox, and a puppy hound. They become friends. Now the hound gets separated from the fox, and then they grow up. They grow up into completely different people. And not only that, they're told by their owners that you're going to be enemies forever. So it's kind of, that was also an allegory for interracial friendships as well. Like your friend, like there was in the past, especially before the what do you call it, the human rights movement status, it was seen as taboo to even have friends of another race or another religion, that is. So it was a huge taboo. So it was sort of like a commentary, a meta commentary on friendships with the other, that is. And that's where you're constantly told by your elders they're bad people, you're going to be stereotyped. And that's what The Fox and the Hound presents to you. So I love that story. It's a definitely great watch. It doesn't even have a happy ending. It's one of those rare Disney films that does not have a happy ending. So I definitely recommend our viewers to check it out.
Yo, do you want to know what the funniest movie I've ever seen is?
Which one?
Watership Down.
how is that funny?
Oh,
You didn't find that funny? It's a bunch of rabbits getting murdered.
yes.
Because I found it funny because I thought it was a kid's show when I was younger and I watched it. It turned out to be the most scariest thing I've ever seen.
It is dark. It is dark. That I think Watership Down, around the same time, they had something called Animal Farm. And
Yo, that movie was
That's a good book.
And Animal Farm was an allegory for the rise of communism and Stalin.
Yeah, like naming Stalin and everyone like pigs.
The pigs, and like the Napoleon is the name Napoleon. Oh, we know what you're talking about. And
then
metaphor for the government
turning into humans, and like the labor class. It shows the labor struggle.
And then the horse going to the doctor, the butcher van.
Ooh, that was dark. That was just scary stuff. Like, oh my god, that was just wow. I again, brilliant movie. It was a brilliant movie. Great novel. The novel has a darker ending too. The movie kind of makes it a happy ending, kind of, but it does leave you a little damaged, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the book, the bad guys win.
Yeah.
Like in the movie, they rise up and, take back the farm. But
exactly.
in the book, it's just, oh yeah, now all the pigs are human.
Yeah. And that was the time too. Like communism had taken over. Communism had taken over Russia. So that was the allegory. Yeah, it continues. So he was depicting the reality of the rise of communism and Stalin.
I loved Animal Farm, but like I loved Watership Down because of how scary it was.
Yeah, Watership Down is a scary world for a rabbit. It's a very scary world too. Like everything's after you, basically.
But
I think they put a new version of Watership Down on Netflix. Is that any good, or? I've
heard some mixed reviews about it. Like some people liked it, some people preferred the original. It depends. It's a little bit longer. I think BBC made that. The new Watership Down.
If it was an American company, I wouldn't trust it.
I love how American companies have done with what they have done with like foreign content, that is, and how they, even the Death Note movie, they just ruined that movie. Death Note, they ruined it forever for me.
I watched the Death Note movie before the anime, and I was like, oh, it wasn't,
Yeah.
that bad. Then I watched the anime, and I'm like, now I can't enjoy the movie. The show's
Exactly.
too good.
The
Like,
show's too good. Like, it wasn't the fact that it was taking place in America. No, it's just the fact that the characters were not like the original anime. Like, once you see the anime, you will hate the movie.
Light flat out tells L that he's Kira in the movie.
Exactly. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Light, the main crux of the original anime was what do you call it? L trying to find out if Light is the Kira or finding Kira himself. That was the meat of the series. Or even Mello and Nier finding Kira.
After L died, I didn't like the second arc as much. It felt like it was dragging on a bit. The finale, though, was really good.
I liked it, though. I actually liked the second half, too, because it's sort of like the villain or the protagonist is now the antagonist. So it's a switch. And now he's finally getting his sort of comeuppance status. So if someone fails, another person's going to take you down. So it's kind of like, I like the lesson in that, too. Like, you can beat your rival, but there's always going to be someone better than you, and they will take you down.
Spoiler alert to anyone who
Spoiler
watches.
alert to anyone. I apologize, but I'm guessing most people have seen the anime.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 10 years old at this point.
Exactly.
But yeah, guys, that's actually most of the questions I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
So we'll let our audience go for this one, but just wanted to put down the product link for my friend Christian's website.
Yeah.
Please buy any computer-related products using the promo code Nick to get $25 off of your purchase. Please, I'm officially a YouTuber now, so please subscribe. Click the link below and all that bullshit. And all the information we discussed, whatever links that we said we'll provide, will be in the description. Mustapha, we need that documentary.
Wait, what was the documentary about? The Salman Rushdie affair. Yes, I will send you links to said documentary. They're on YouTube, I think. So hopefully, I'll just send you the link. And remind me to please send you the documentary of the Rushdie affair.
Yeah. All right, man. Guys, let's take care. Say bye to everyone, and
bye.
Yes,
see you in the next episode.
All right. See you soon.
Hey guys, this is the epilogue to yesterday's discussion. My friend Gautam, who's in a different time zone, also wants to join in our discussion. Due to this COVID pandemic stuff, everyone's scattered all over the place. So just adjusting to time zones here. So yeah, I'm going to ask you the same questions that we talked about yesterday, just doing Mustapha and John Paul a favor here. Mm-hmm. But
oh yeah, sure.
So this is just going to be a general discussion that we're going to have. And basically based off of the questions we discussed before. So before we get started, can you give the audience a brief description of yourself? Or like an introduction.
So yeah, hello everyone who's listening. And I'm Gautam, and I came to Canada in the year 2017 as an international student, and I came after my high school, and I had high hopes of getting into a challenging environment, because in Canada I have no family or whatsoever, so everything I have to do it on my own. So yeah, it was like taking up a new challenge, and I met Nick during the last summer, and I was working there in an internship in my college, and I met Nick over there, and he's a great guy. He served me different cuisines, and I still miss that. And we all really miss the last summer, don't we? So yeah, it's the same with me. And what else, bro?
Yeah, dude. Everyone's like, dude, how'd you get so? It tells me how'd you get so fat? Gautam ate my cooking and food, so he knows how I got fat.
True. Yeah, he's a great chef, so can't help it.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you your like where you emigrated from, and what's your experience like when you came to Canada for the first time in the past 2-3 years?
Mhm.
What was your experience here in Canada?
Okay, so experience over there, right? So
Yeah.
so like I'll start from prior to coming to Canada. So like I was like a high school graduate, and then I did my high school in sciences, and yeah, so I had an interest in computers, so I took up computer programming at Seneca, and then yeah, at around like 2017 late, yeah, I came to Seneca. I joined in, and then yeah, like it's been a like a mixed experience for me over there, because I was thinking like the teaching would be like really high, and then I learned so many stuff, but then I learned stuff, but then not from the professors, I would say mainly, but like it was more of like a holistic approach, like the living alone experience, independent experience, and with that the study environment I got, like, which was different from India, because over here there are people from my country. I don't see any foreigners over here, but over there, like, I had people from all over the world, like people from, say, Iran, or people from US, or Australia. And then I met Nick, who was born in Canada, but then he has Indian roots. So like I met different all different people from various ethnicities, and yeah, that was like a really precious experience that I have with me, because like I India is in India is a diverse country, but then since you've been born and brought up in the same environment, you pick up so many biases. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, Nick? Like,
Yeah, definitely. Like I always get told that, like, especially when we watch movies like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, or like a bunch of like Karan Johar movies, the only image
yeah,
of white people that we get in Bollywood movies is like some Finnish guy who
yeah.
can't speak English, and his American accent sounds worse than the American accents of the actual actors from Bollywood.
Oh yeah.
So like
Yeah.
I think most
I mean,
people
Kabhi
when they
Khushi Kabhi Gham is the movie I've heard, like, most people have watched, like, abroad. The Indians, the Desis, they have watched Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. If not any other Bollywood movie, this is the movie they've watched. So yeah.
that movie, like I cried when I saw like what this one scene where like this white guy's sitting on like the hood of his car and he's like, "Hey, poop," and I'm like, dude, that's not how anyone acts. He has like these small ass X-Men style glasses on. He has like a tank top with a shirt on top of it with another tank top on top of it.
and luxury car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's like even we as Indians, we also, like, kind of have a stereotype of the, like, the outsiders, or like, the white people, like, who we consider
Got
as
it.
foreigners, like Gore. If it's any other people who's like brown or black, we won't consider them as foreigners. So like that's been like a biased thing that we have invented in our culture, because of the, I think, the colonization. Because we became so used to the white people that we considered every white from, like, like an Englishman, and not like we don't have any differentiation between an American or a Englishman or a Scottish man. We just consider them one thing, like Gora. He's a Gora man.
Yeah,
like
but
so like there's no differentiation. Like when I grew up, so I started learning these things, like, because to me every white guy was like, okay, he's a Gora guy, he knows only English. And because I was a kid, so I didn't knew that there were languages which existed, so I was like, oh, this guy knows only English, and I had to, like, I can't talk with him, because since I know only Hindi, I was learning English. But now, like, I know, okay, this is an American, this is a Scottish guy, and okay, American can also be black, brown, or whatsoever, like. But
yeah,
this is the thing that we have developed.
you must have been shocked when you saw me though. Like, how's this Canadian guy so brown? Where did he get his tan? Where did he get his tan?
And why is this? No, you know what, Nick? I thought like, why is this Indian guy speaking so fluent English?
What coaching center did he go to?
Yeah, which English speaking course he did? Tell me about it. No, of course not, because now I have developed that intelligence of differentiating people. But then I was I was talking about the cultural bias that I was talking about, that we tend to adopt when we are growing up, and especially in India, you tend to pick up like some what should I say, like a cultural supremacy, that that you're born in this culture and this is like a supreme thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm born in a Hindu family, and since like there are so many castes in India, so people from Hindu Brahmin family, they consider themselves, okay, I'm like somewhere around here and there. But then when we move out of India, we know like this is not even true, because like we see people from different various ethnicities, cultures, and then we see like we are all equal. It's nothing like okay, like this religion is at the top, or this certain group of people are at the top. So yeah, it's like a thing we pick up, but yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, so other than media representation, you spent quite a bit of time in India, and you also spent quite a bit of time in Canada. What was the biggest difference you saw in terms of like everything? Like what's the different experience like for you?
So okay, so the first thing, and I think that's the most cliche answer you would get from a desi Indian guy, like basic problem that I had after coming to Canada was like using toilet paper. Like this is quite common, and like many of my roommates, like they used to carry these small bottles, and at first I was, because when I came there, you are still getting used to the environment and everything, and then you don't notice these small things. Then you're looking at the broader aspect of things. So then my roommate started carrying like this small bottles into like the washrooms, and I was like, bro, what are you doing like from these bottles? He's like, and then
would you like a toilet paper to help you?
No, I'm good. I'm in India, bro, so I'm good. So like things like that, and then like this is a huge cultural shock for any like Indian, right? So but then like I considered it too gross to use like a bottle or anything, so then I got used to using toilet paper. So yeah, it was fine after like a year, and I was like kind of used to it. But then I would still, if you ask me, I would prefer water any day, bro, like any day. I wouldn't even go back to using toilet paper.
When I went to India for the first time, and like there was the Turkish toilet, I never knew. Like I asked my mom what the hell this hole on the ground was. I had to like you have to do it, like you have to start doing some like yoga to like be able to use it properly. You got to go in full squat, and it's not even like a regular squat I'm used to. Like my thighs have to like touch my calves.
Yeah, bro, that's an Indian toilet. So
and it's like, dude, what kind of yoga are you guys making me do?
No, but like most Indians, bro, they've come up a long way in that aspect, because like in most families you would see like they're using Western toilets. So I mean they have adopted that, but then I don't think in any near future they'll adopt toilet paper. So
yeah. Well, manufacturing.
Yeah.
But manufacturing that much toilet paper for the people there is
like second largest population, and we are about to be the first, bro, in some years. So I don't think that there's so much paper in the world.
But yo, I think the biggest one was a difference in food, because India, it's extremely diverse, but in its own sense. Whereas in Canada, it's extremely diverse in another sense. In Canada, you want any kind of cuisine, Like if I want Thai food, Mexican food, Italian or whatever, I go downtown. Within a walking distance, I'll be able to find any cuisine I want in the world. But in India, like the food is extremely diverse. But like if I want a good Italian restaurant at the caliber of something in downtown Toronto, I'm not going to be able to find it. But don't get me wrong, the food in India is extremely diverse. You're going to have like the Rajasthani food is totally different from the Gujarati food, and like it's totally different from the Hyderabadi style cuisine. So how did you get accustomed to something like that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So like in Indian terms, like if I due to my little understanding, I see like there are two broad like branches of food that we have. Like if I have to divide it into like a broad category, I would say like there's like this North Indian food and South Indian food. And like North Indian people can even like eat Rajasthani food or whatever lies in the north region of India. They are good with it. But then if they have to eat South Indian, bro, like I don't think most people would prefer that. And I completely understand that, because South Indian food is also like more like close to like they also have like seafood and stuff. And of course I love dosa, but then there are two different things that I see in India. So like if you love South Indian food, you will have that food in all across South India. Even in North India we have that, but then it's not like you won't eat North Indian food. You would try it, but then there are two different things that I'm talking about. But then when I came to Canada, as I'm a North Indian, and I think like yeah, I had trouble in the initial days, like finding good Indian restaurants and stuff. So then, but I had my friends. Like I made some new friends, and then they were like, like this is a cool restaurant in Brampton, and this is a cool restaurant.
Hello? Yo. Sorry, technical difficulties, guys. But yeah, so you were basically saying about like good food, the Indian food in Brampton, like places like Sarvana Bowen, or then you go to like Broad or something like that, which have like decent Indian food.
Yeah, Barad. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Barad is also good. But like there are like many restaurants in the Gerrard Street, if you've gone over there.
Oh yeah, dude,
So yeah,
Little India.
Little India, man. Like it's yeah, that is the place that I visit often, and I visited often in the last year, like most, because in the first year, like I can say like I didn't even go over there, because I didn't know that there was such a place, because you're still exploring the city, and then you want to try something different, because I've been eating Indian food all my life. So I was like, let's try something new and this and that. So in the first year, I would say I didn't even like craved that much Indian food. But then after like one full year, I would say there was like a certain you know craving inside me. Like I really seriously want Indian food now. I can't go
Yeah,
without it.
you really
So
want that
roti
biryani.
and stuff. Yeah, roti, curry, and we have a ton of things that we can't even survive without that. So like paranthas, you've eaten paranthas, right?
Yeah, you got like the lachha
So
paratha and then like the Kerala style parathas.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so there was this place in Gerrard Street, and there's like a auntie over there, and like she's like a Pakistani auntie, and bro, like she cooks like chicken paranthas, bro. And my God, Nick, I'll take you someday over there. It's so delicious. Like after my 12-hour shifts, I used to go over there, bro. Like, and with chai, the tea, the
Yeah.
Indian tea
Oh
we
yeah.
have.
There's this guy who makes like Kashmiri style tea with like a little bit of pistachio and
Yeah,
saffron.
and yeah, lots of Kashmiri tea stalls in that particular street I'm talking about. So yeah, bro. Like that was a thing that made me nostalgic. Like those were the certain things like you miss when you're outside, and you don't see that often, because in India, bro, like if it's food, you won't even like have a problem, because there's so cheap food, and it's and like quality food I'm talking about. Not even like, you would say, okay, it's cheap, but it's not even healthy or whatever. But in India, if you are to travel India, bro, you don't worry about food. You can find like good food stalls like around the streets of wherever you go, because there's food everywhere in India, and people are foodie over here. So yeah, you won't
I have to
suffer
give a
from that
small
problem. But
disclaimer to my audience. In India, the biggest thing you got to remember for food is the closer experience you'll have with death from eating at that place, the better the food will taste.
yeah,
I give you my word. The streets, don't go into this fancy restaurant with like the guy having a nice like
no,
diamond encrusted turban, like with napkins in his hand, like luring you to come into the restaurant. Like the food there is gonna taste like balls, and you're probably gonna like. It's not the good food,
yeah,
but like if you go to a street car where like you're questioning whether the guy washed his hands or not, trust me, he washed his hands. He washed all his utensils, but his food, his like pav bhaji or biryani is going to taste absolutely amazing. Like best thing you'll ever eat.
yeah. I mean, and also like in India, like we don't even care that much about hygiene, bro. Like there's always like many food stalls nearby the streets, and you know how they are, and they don't even care about that much of hygiene. Like, okay, washing their hands or shit. Like they eat anything, bro. They're like, okay, give it to me. Like, I'm hungry.
Dude,
And
I'm
also like
telling you as
the tea, bro.
yeah,
The tea, bro. The real tea, you'll get it from the streets, not from any like fancy restaurants. And it's called a tapri. Like, tea,
yeah,
you get it at one of those tapris. You won't get it in a 5-star or a 4-star restaurant. So
yeah. And the thing that makes Indian tea so good is that they don't use cow milk, which only has like 2% like fat. They use buffalo milk, which is sitting at like 9 or 10% fat. So they're making their
yeah,
tea with like heavy cream essentially, which makes it taste divine. Like you can still feel the fat on your lips.
true, yeah. No, that's one of the things that I'm best in, like making tea. Like I used to make tea whatever, like whenever I was in like some stress or whatever. Like I used to like go to my frying pan, and then whatever, I used to make up a tea to like just
Yeah,
stress down a bit. So yeah, but then this was like one of the major like big changes that I faced over there. And apart from this, I would say like also like I think also one thing that I've noticed is like the closing time of all the big malls and like the stores. Like it's too early, and in India, bro, like if you're staying here, you'll notice that they close at their own convenience. So it's not like they have a fixed time. Okay, 9 p.m. we're closing, because in Canada, I noticed that whenever we used to go late night, it's like everything is closed. Only a handful of few stores or like the food centers that are open, and then and those by name. It's so less stores that are open, so you know them by name. But in India, bro, if any time of the hour you go, there is something or the other open, and you'll find what you're looking for. So that's what I'm talking about. Well, like over there, it's like it's when I realized, okay, those people also have a life, like because in India it's like they close at their own convenience. If you're staying there till 12 or 2 in the morning, 2 a.m., they'll stay with you. They'll be like, okay, yeah, no problems, you take your time. So but over there, like if I entered the store around like 8:30, and it is supposed to be closed at 9, they'll be like, okay, sir, we have half an hour, so you need to hurry up. That's how the things are. So that was also like a big change. Like I wasn't used to that, so that made me realize, yeah, they also have a life, and
yeah, dude. I had two major experiences I want to tell you about that exactly. One, or
okay,
what we discussed. One is I absolutely love the cha and like the experience of late night at like 1 a.m. drinking a cup of cha, playing caroms with your friends. My cousin
yeah,
in India and I did that once, where we drank like at 1 a.m., had like a cup of tea on a small stool next to us, and set up a carom table on the roof. of our house.
Mhm.
When I say the roof of our house, the houses in India aren't like ours, where like the roofs are sloped for the snow to fall off. They're like almost like the cubicle
Hmm.
style cement houses. So we were on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
top of that
cubicle
house.
style, yeah.
And so we were on the
Hmm.
top of that roof where it's completely flat with a carom board, a cup of tea, and we were up till like 3 a.m. playing caroms. That's one thing I absolutely like, the relaxed nature of going all night and still having fun. The second thing is,
Yeah.
so there's this, I went to this mall in hope, like, this was when I had to apply for internships and so on, and interviews and everything for my old degree. And I was like, okay, if
Mhm.
I can probably get my dress shirt at Calvin Klein for really cheap because I like their like content, but in Canada they make you pay out the ass for their clothing.
Hmm.
So I was like, they're made in India by some kid they plucked off the street. So it's probably gonna cost like it costs like $80 in Canada. It's probably gonna cost like what, 20, $40 in India, because
Yeah.
it's made there. So I was like, even if I got it for $40 to $60, I'm gonna take it because it's a $20 deal. And I go into the store. This man asks for like 6,000 rupees, or like conversion is like $120. And I'm like, dude, it's cheaper than in Canada. And he's like, you probably went to a knockoff store. And then he's like, I'm like, dude, I went to Yorkdale to Calvin Klein, and they were charging 80 for this. They were charging like 3,000, 4,000 rupees for this. Like, how the hell do you have the balls to sell me this shirt for $120? And then he's like, well, sir, this is high quality. I'm like, dude, it's made in this country. Give me a cheaper price. He's like, no, no, thank you. No, thank you, sir. So yeah, I left the,
No, it's about branding, bro. Yeah.
dude, it said made in India on the shirt. It was made there. It's probably made in the back of the store, for all I know.
Bro, you know what? You know what? There's a brand called Peter England in India. Okay, and that's like a Indian brand, but most people buy it because they think of it like an exotic item they're buying. Okay, it's from England or whatever. But then if you research, the company is in India and they manufacture everything. Their plants and everything. It's in India. So that's how it is. Like it's something like with us, like we think the Western world is like more superior, and that's how it comes from there. Yeah. So
Yeah, like yeah, no, that was an eye-opening experience. He's like, yeah, do you want me to fold it up for you? And I'm like, yeah, please fold it up and show it up your ass. And I left the store. Because yeah, like no way in hell was I paying like $40 more than what it costs in Canada.
yeah, of course. No, also, like, okay, I don't know if you have this habit or not, because even like you have Indian roots. So like what we Indians like usually have this problem, and the problem I'm talking about is like the time management thing. Like, so if you call me somewhere around, like, like, okay, Gautam, be here around like 3 times. So I'll always follow the Indian standard time. You know what I'm talking about. Like, if I
Yeah,
have to
show
come
up 2 hours late.
anywhere you call me, so the Indian standard time tells you to come later than the assigned time. Not even earlier, it's later. Anytime, like anything more than 30 minutes, it's acceptable. So so I used to follow that, bro, like religiously. So whenever my friends over there, they used to call me, okay, Gautam, like, let's meet up at this place at around 6 or whatever 7. So I used to turn up around like 7:38, and they're like, bro, what the hell, like, what are you doing? you don't have any you don't have any discipline or whatever. So, but like, that's in me. I figured, like, the Indian standard time.
I had an experience like that in India. We had some like appointment, and it's set at 8 in the morning. So me being the Canadian I am, the Gore I am, this guy, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's 8 o'clock. It's gonna take a half hour to commute there. So let me leave at 7:30, meaning I have to wake up at 6 and get ready because I got to start doing yogas on the toilet. And then my aunt was like, we will leave the house at 8. You can wake up at 7:45.
Yeah.
And then like I'm
No,
like,
that's
what?
how it
But that's
really
not
is.
punctual. I'm like, I don't have discipline if I can't even show up early to a meeting I set. And then she's like,
Yeah.
we will leave at 7:45, and like you can get up at 7:45, and then like we get there by 9, so an hour after. And apparently the guy
Yeah,
still
of
hasn't
course.
woken up yet. And I'm like, yeah,
No,
no, that was also
no,
a
man.
huge
Like
culture shock.
this is a real thing. Like whenever, yeah, of course. No, like this is a real thing. Like in India, whenever you are setting up like a, like like your house party or whatever, like a celebration, you set it up thinking of that time, because you'll be like, okay, I've written 7:30 on the card, but I know people would start arriving from like 8:30. So you have that thing in mind now. Like it's like going nowhere, and you have this ingrained in your mind that people will start like after an hour from the assigned time. So
Yeah,
so yeah,
thank God
that's
I
how
never
it
got
is.
any
Like
invitations. I'd show up like on time, and like they're still showering.
and you'll be there like seeing the tent setup.
Oh, thank God you saw there. I was gonna say like they're gonna make me set up the entire thing. They're gonna make me organizer for
Who
how to
knows?
do the
Who
layout.
knows?
But yeah, next
Of
topic
course.
was you
Yeah.
came here for education, right? So I want to ask, what
Yeah.
was the biggest thing you saw differently between the education you got in India and the education you got here?
Yeah, I think the major difference I saw was like the hands-on experience in Canada, like as compared to India, because over here in India we focus more on the bookish knowledge. Like okay, it's always about like 3 chapters. You get 3 chapters in exam. You have to know every single page, every single text in those 3 chapters. So nothing more than that, nothing less than that. So you have to like vomit it out in the exam. But then in Canada, I've noticed like it's more like of a hands-on approach they do. Like you have given some topics, and then if you know the topics, there'll be some labs, workshops that you do, because that's like more practical way of doing it. You learn the thing, and then you don't have to write the theory. You have to like bring it into practical use. You're like making the code yourself. That's like a
Yeah.
more like a hands-on approach. You're not writing like, okay, C was developed by this and this guy in this year, when you don't even know the language. And I'm not saying like it's everywhere. It's like, luckily I study from a really good school, like the top 10 in India. So like I received really good education, but I'm not saying like it's everywhere in India, but like this is for the most part in our education system. Like you tend to like there's a word in Hindi called ratta. Like ratta means like to like just to learn everything word by word and mug it up. That's the
Yeah.
English word for that. So
Yeah, just
you don't
an
have to mug
example of
up.
that for people to know. It's like Chatur from Three Idiots.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
Fathom
yeah. You
speech.
watched the movie?
Yeah, my favorite Bollywood
Oh
movie
yeah,
ever. Uh,
yeah,
he had
man.
this
One of my favorites too.
this amazing speech about farts.
In Sanskrit, yeah, that's like a slope he was
Yeah,
trying to say, but like
Machapadam.
they changed it. Madhyavadam. And the last one was like Sursuri Padam Pran Gatkam, something like that.
Yeah, it's like the silent one is like a life killer or something, which is a
Yeah,
translation.
Pran Gatkam, like it's in. Yeah.
It's like life threatening.
Oh man, I love that movie. Oh my god, that movie was good, bro. Like, yeah, it is definitely one of my favorites. But like, did you grow up watching a lot of Indian movies or no? Like your parents were like,
Well, yeah, like my mom and my family still watched, but like for me,
okay,
I watched them for the sake of getting to know my language and for educating
your
myself in the
culture.
actual language. well, like I can't really trust the movie for culture because like all I can think of is like every guy in
Of
India
course,
will like
yeah.
grab another guy and toss him over a car or something like that, like in the fight scenes. But like or they'll go like in Salman Khan and like scratch the guy's face while he's fighting. But like I just watch it for the sake of learning the language and not for the sake of the movie content itself. But like there are some Bollywood movies
Yeah.
that were really good quality in story and everything. But like on your
Yeah.
point of the education, I want to add a few points. Like I think that's one of the biggest things I've seen. I did engineering before, so and then there's an engineering. My cousin did engineering as well, so I was just going to compare like how me and him both did our courses. He would have like the entire semester just lectures, no lab work whatsoever, and at the end he would have one final exam for the theory, and then would have a 3-hour lab exam where they would give him a lab and ask him to do it at the end. And all that to get the final exam and the lab thing would be worth around 80% of his mark, and then the internal coursework quizzes would only be worth 20%. Whereas here it's vice versa, where the internal you would have the labs split up into every week, and that internal stuff would only be 70 to 80% of your work, where your final exam only covers 20% of your final, like your entire theory. And that too many of the questions are taken from your lab work. So like I think that's like the biggest difference in cultures, where they focus more on theory and we focus more on applications.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I also wanted to, is there any other major differences that you saw between both cultures that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, like one other thing that I noticed was the manners, the politeness of Canadians. Like that is like a cliche thing, but I saw it for real, like through my own experiences, and then I was like, after a certain point of time, you get used to it, but then when you are like starting your journey over there, you tend to see people becoming like more like polite and courteous around you. You'll be like, okay man, like what's going on, because I've never faced this in my entire life. Because it's like rough, okay, you don't care that much, it's casual. If it's something you say to the other one, you don't think like, okay, he might be offended by my statement. You'll be like, okay, it's like a thing I said, okay, and he'll forget it the other day. So but over there, people are more like, they think whatever they're trying to say to the other one, like, if he might get offended by my statement or whatever. So people are, polite and courteous. That's the first thing. And they are cautious, I would say, like particularly with strangers. Like they don't want to say something which hurts them, in any way. So yeah, but again, like, this is also like one part of the country. Like I've also seen the other side. Like I used to work in TDC as a customer service representative, right? So then I used to like meet lots of people, like hundred thousands of them, like throughout the day, like during my 12-hour shift. So and I also saw the other side as well. It's not like it's all goody over there. There are also some elements in every society, and that's what I saw. Like people can get rude for no reason at all. So yeah, I mean, but if I were to compare like both the countries, I would say like it's more on a polite spectrum of things. Like Canada is more on a polite spectrum of things than India, for sure.
One of the biggest incidents there was like when I was coming back from the airport, or like going to the airport to like check in my baggage to come back to Canada, right? So I remember I was having my cart. There's like a lot of people like bunched up, like not in the line or whatever, blocking my way. So I was standing there. Excuse me, sir. Mujhe maaf kar do. Please move aside. Please move aside. My
मुझे
cousin's
माफ कर दो.
hey, do you understand? My Hindi's Bollywood Hindi, right, from Netflix. So don't blame me.
Yeah. That's
But
fine, bro. That's fine.
and then my cousin's like, Nikhil Baba, not like that. Watch this. Shalbe, hut, shalbe. Like yelling at. like,
Yeah,
that's,
bro. That's like normal life.
And I'm sitting there like, you can't yell at him. He's another person. He's like, no, that's the only way he's gonna move. You gotta like yell at him a bit to move. And I'm like, you're yelling at him like some guy moving his cattle is. He's like, yeah, that's how you have to talk.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your experiences. I hope everyone likes what we did so far.
No problems, man.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's my pleasure,
guys,
man.
Yeah, so guys,
Thank you for
check
having
in.
me, man.
No worries. You're welcome on anytime. And after the quarantine's over, I'm gonna be giving you a food tour of Toronto. There's a lot of stuff that you gotta try.
Looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to get out of my house, bro. Like it's been like what 60 days or whatever. Like I don't even remember how many days it's been.
Oh, for me it's been 90. I've been in my house since March.
Oh,
March 14th.
even me, bro. Like, but then March, like mid-March till mid-March, India wasn't that like strict on the lockdown. Like, so we were going out and the usual routine. But then mid-March they started like holding on the lockdown and everything. Because I canceled my flight mid-March, bro. Like, because of this. I was coming to Toronto mid-March, but then rest is history.
But yeah, so guys, please do join us for the next episode. Please do subscribe and all that. I'm a YouTuber now, so take care.